Hey everyone and welcome to another video. So this is a really last minute video because I had sat on the couch and my night is almost over and I didn't want to sit at my computer and I realized I need a video for tomorrow. And I actually thought I've never actually gone over the books that I have DNF'd this year. So these are the 5 books that I have DNF'd so far in 2025. So we're actually going off my DNF list in on Goodreads, and I'm going to give you 2 bonus ones to start off with. So the bonus book number 1 is I started Midnight Sun. I don't remember when I started reading it. Definitely. So you started the podcast last year and I was in the middle of it. So it must have been summer 2024. I was reading it and I was going to try to reread Twilight at the same time. And then my cousin got us hooked on Fourth Wing. And after reading Fourth Wing, there was no way I could go back to Midnight Sun, but I left it as currently reading for a while because I didn't know if I was ever going to go back to it. After a time, basically in April of this year, it became obvious that I'm not going to go back to it. So that's Midnight Sun. Same with the Everqueen. I have actually read the Everqueen, so that's the Everking. So this book 2, I realized this year again in April that I wasn't going to finish it, so I DNF'd it officially, even though I started it, I think, last year again. So the first, I don't know if this is in order, so this is in no particular order. But the first book that I DNF'd so far in 2025 is Hostage Security. So it sounded good, saw it at Walmart. I begged my husband, bought it. It was really tiny. It was like $7 or $6. And I was so excited for it because it was kind of like online with what I was trying to write and plan in my military romantic suspense at the time. And when I started reading it, it's like book 14. So, they're standalone romances, so you can understand it. But there was just so much, it felt like this was more of a story about all the other characters instead of the main character, and it just also was kind of just written in a way that wasn't quite what I was expecting it to be, and the blurb I don't think kind of lined up with, I don't know, there was just so much information that was just not there that maybe if you're following the series it would have been better. But they're supposed to be standalone romances, and I didn't feel like it was written in a way that I can just jump in. So that was why I DNF'd Hostage Security. I don't think I'm going to go back to it. So next up is One of Us. The second book that I have DNF'd this year in 2025 is One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole. I really, really actually loved this book, and it was gearing toward being a 5-star read for me because it was like a psychological thriller, which is one of my favorite genres. Like, it got me back into reading long time ago when I read like Daisy Darker. And the main character in this one has DID, and I was really fascinated with that, and I wanted to read a book with a DID character, a character who has DID. The problem for this one was that it was coming from the perspective of someone who is very, very woke. And I was able to ignore a few things, but it got to where it was unignorable for me. And also, a lot of the reviews were not good and said that nothing really major happens until toward the end of the book, and it's very slow, and it kind of got really long-winded at some points. So for that reason, it put me in a reading slump. I was just not in the mood. So that's the second book that I have DNF'd this year in 2025. Let me move my face. Now these ones I still have on my currently reading list because I know I hope I'm going to come back to them at some point. So they're not officially DNF'd, but I haven't come back to them yet and I haven't finished them. So they technically do count as did not finish. So the first book, I'm on number 3. So the third book that I have DNF'd this year in 2025 is actually From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. That's been the most recent one. I actually stopped it to read the rest of the Throne of Glass series. I was kind of interested in it and the premise sounded good, but there was just something about it that just wasn't clicking with me. And then I found out that it gets very, very spicy and I just lost interest. And the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas is like way better. So I just kind of fell out of it. And I don't know. Trying to remember some of the details. I feel like the romance is not very prominent, and there was just there's tons and tons of world building, but it's very, 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 very slow. There's not a whole lot happening in the beginning, from what I remember. So, and it's just so long. So the fourth book that I have DNF'd this year in 2025 is actually Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher. And I was so excited about this one. I read the blurb, and the blurb immediately captured me because it sounded like an idea that I have had in my head, very similar to. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read this book. And then I started reading it. It's a fantasy comedy. It is not serious at all, and the trope and the blurb and the idea that I love about this book is a serious kind of thing, and I wanted to see it in a serious way, and the blurb gave no indication, and neither did the cover. Nothing indicated this was going to be a comedy, and it's just not. I did not want a comedy. So I'm going to save this to when I am in the mood for that. And like reading Assistant to the Villain, I feel like it's going to be very similar to that. So that's why I have DNF'd Sword Heart. So the 5th book that I've DNF'd this year in 2025 is actually The Songbird and the Heart of Stone by Carissa Broadbent. So I love Carissa Broadbent. I love her writing. She is a very unique writer. She has a very unique way of writing, and like the way that she puts words together. She writes very beautifully. And I loved the first 2 books in her Crowns of Naxia series. So the way her series works. But anyways, the first 2 books in her Crowns of Naxia series is about 2 particular characters. And they're a duology. It's the first duology in a series of duologies. So book 3 and book 4 is this next duology set. And it's actually, the main girl is a side character that's in the first 2 books. And Mish is the character's name. And she was okay. I liked her, especially in the first book, but she's a side character, and I just never saw her as a main character, and I wasn't interested in her enough beyond being a side character. So that was my biggest problem, is that I loved Rain and Araya from the first duology, so it's really hard to shift gears. But with time, I feel like that could be solvable. Seeing Mish as a main character is going to be a little bit harder to overcome. And then the last reason is that this deals with the underworld and death and necromancy and stuff, and that's not my thing. I am just not, no judgment on it. I couldn't think of the word. I'm tired. No judgment on anybody who loves that kind of stuff, but it's just not my thing. And it just gives me the heebie-jeebies, and it's just not my vibe. And I have a really hard time getting into that. Like, one of my favorite shows was Once Upon a Time, and the season when they did the underworld thing with Hades and all that stuff just completely lost me. It was so hard to get through, and I love that show. So I have DNF'd The Songbird and the Heart of Stone. I really want to continue it because I think the new book's coming out in August, and I really want to read Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, which is the in-between books 2 and 3, standalone romance that's about a completely different couple. And then the last set, the last duology is going to be coming out at some point, and I need to catch up because I want to read them in order because they kind of interconnect a little bit, but not really. So it's just, this one's going to be hard to get through because it's just the underworld and necromancy and all that stuff's not my thing. And then, like, if I cared about the characters, then I could get through it, but I don't care about Mish, and that makes it even harder to get through this one. So those are the 5 books that I have DNF'd so far in 2025. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, and let me know in the comments below what books you have DNF'd so far this year, if any. I'd love to hear back from you guys, and if you liked this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more writing and reading videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And in the meantime, check out my book review of The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. I did actually finish that book, and I did actually enjoy it, so check it out. You don't want to miss it. My review video will be here because I did actually finish reading that one.